So good morning to everyone. Welcome to this Edtech session, the breakout session of day one of the AAP event. I hope you already had quite a nice session till now. In this session, we'll be talking to you about two topics, but before I get to the program, please just a gentle reminder of the housekeeping rules to keep your microphone on mute, unless you're talking, of course. If we like interaction, do raise your hand before speaking, and then we'll give you the floor. Every time, if you ask a question or anything, it's also good to know, always good to know who you are. So basically introduce yourself, and maybe if you can adapt the name as you as a participant, so we know who you are. If there's any issue at any time, just reach out to Tatiana for support, for technical support, and here you see her email. So for this session, we have 45 minutes, so we'll be a bit on a fast track. We have divided the session in two parts. Part one is on digitization and education, which will be brought to you by Jacqueline Biaf, who is going to introduce herself in a minute, of the Siemens Foundation, working on the education department and specifically on open educational resources. She will tell you all about that in a few minutes. And for the second part, we will talk you through investor readiness, how to address that, and give you a bit of concrete tools. Without further ado, I would say, Jacqueline, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you everybody for joining us. Good morning, wherever you are. Yes, next slide, please. I always like to start a session with a short check-in question. So the check-in question I prepared for today's session is, why is it important for you to be here today? So please feel free to write your answer into the chat, or if you also feel comfortable, you could just raise your hand and say your answer out loud if you want to. But yeah, it would be quite interesting to know why you guys are joining us today in this session. I will give you a few minutes to answer that into the chat, please. I hope that everybody is still writing out their answers. Haven't no answers yet in the chat. Maybe I also can start off. Oh, okay, there we see the first one. Oh, okay, no, that's Anna. Yeah, but if at the moment nobody feels comfortable in answering, I will just go on, and during the presentation, please feel free to answer the question into the chat. That would be very helpful. Yeah, next slide, please. So my name is Jacqueline Biaf. I'm a junior project manager at the Siemens Stiftung, and I focus on the topics of digitalization and education in Africa and open educational resources. And I have the pleasure to present two of our projects that focus on these topics today. And I really want to keep this an open discussion. So at any point, if you have any questions, input, feedback, or you want to share your experiences, please feel free to write it into the chat or raise your hand if you feel comfortable with that. And then you can say it aloud and share it with the group. So for the structure of the presentation, I will start off with a short introduction into the Siemens Stiftung, what we do, and then I will go a bit into our working area, education, which I am part of. Then I will give you a short overview of the two projects that focus on the topic of digitalization and education in Africa. And then I will talk a bit more about the challenges and opportunities we face when implementing those projects in the region. Next slide, please. So Siemens Stiftung was established 2008, and we are a non-profit foundation with headquarters in Germany, Munich. We also have an office in Erlangen, which is in Germany, and in Santiago de Chile. Our mission as a non-profit foundation is to promote sustainable social development. And we believe that access to basic services, high quality education, and an understanding of cultures are necessary for that. And each of our three working areas tackle one of these topics. So for our working area development cooperation, we focus on access to basic services. For instance, we support social enterprises. Then we have our working area culture, which is focusing on an understanding of cultures. For instance, we have a project called Music in Africa, which is an online platform. And then we have our working area education, where we provide high quality STEM education, and we mainly focus on teachers. So we mainly offer teacher training with our program called Experimento. And we focus on inquiry-based teaching and STEM education, so that teachers are able to teach STEM in a more exciting way and introduce more experimenting into the classroom. And our foundation, we have 3 focus regions, which are Africa, Latin America, and Europe. And in Europe, we mainly focus on Germany. And we are an operational foundation, which means that we don't fund projects, but we implement them ourselves with local partners. Yes, next slide, please. Yes, and today we are focusing on the working area of education, which, as I said, focuses on STEM education, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And here you can see the 4 main reasons why we believe that STEM education is so important. We believe that it is an economic necessity, a social and political enabler, and a value carrier. Because as we all know, technical innovation are one of the drivers of prosperity. But at the moment, we are experiencing a global shortage of experts in this field. And this issue can be counteracted with high quality science education that really sparks the students' interest in the area. So for us, it is necessary for a society to provide that STEM education that really sparks that interest in the teachers and help in the students and help teachers to provide those lessons. And next slide, please. Yeah, and in Africa, we have 4 main focus countries where we provide the teacher training that we do. Those are Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. But of course, for our digital solutions, we do not have specific countries we focus on, but we only provide our content in the English language. That's like the distinction that we have. Next question, please. Yes, slide. So now we have a mentee questionnaire for you guys we prepared. And as I said in the beginning, I really want to keep this an open discussion. And for this session, it's quite important also for us to get your input and your feedback and your experiences. So please feel free to go to mentee.com and put in the code. But you also can see there's a voting link, which also was posted into the chat, or you can scan the QR code. Yep, so I will give you a few seconds to do that so that everybody can log into Mentee. Yep. And I think we can go to the next slide. Yep, so there you can already see the first question for the Mentee, which is, what solution is your startup providing? So please feel free to write your answer into the Mentee. But if you also feel comfortable, please raise your hands and give us a short introduction maybe and tell us a little bit about the solution that you are providing. If you feel comfortable with that, that would be also quite nice. Yeah. Erwin is now sharing his screen to look at the answers. I guess I'm not know if there are already answers. So just wait a little bit longer. And as I said, if anybody feels comfortable just talking a little bit, please raise your hand. That would also be interesting. And here's already one answer: providing innovative learning spaces for young people with little to no access to technology infrastructure. Yeah, very important. It's also something we're going to talk about, access, which is quite also a challenge for us at Siemens Stiftung. Helping visually impaired students get access to books in the form of audiobooks. Also very interesting. That is a group that is often overlooked when it comes to digital content. So that's also a great solution and a needed solution. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing. I think we don't have that much time, so we might jump back into the presentation. But if you feel free to just write your answer into the chat if you want to share your solution with us. Yeah, so that was the first. Then please, next slide. Yep, so for Siemens Stiftung, as I said, our main target group are teachers. So we also try to cater to them with our digital content. So the solution we are trying to provide is quality digital STEM content. And we believe that teachers are a great multiplicator in the education system and essential for any efforts that try to improve education. So this quote you can see here sums up quite nicely what we believe the mission of digital content is. As it says, technology will never replace great teachers, but technology in the hand of great teachers is transformational. So you probably also have heard many discussions, especially during the pandemic, about the role of technology in education. And we believe that technology cannot replace teachers, but it can enhance education. So now I want to present to you our two projects that use technology to enhance education. Next slide, please. So first we have our media portal. And our media portal is an open educational resource platform for teachers and students, but mainly focusing on teachers. And with the portal, teachers and students have access to digital science and technology content in 3 different languages, which are English, Spanish, and Germany, focusing on our 3 focus regions. And we have different kind of content. We have interactive media, we have videos, audio files, and so on. And all the content can be downloaded and accessed offline. And most of our content is also suitable for mobile phones. And we have over 5,000 open educational resources that focus mainly on the topic of electricity. For instance, we have a media package on renewable energy, but we also focus on topics like the environment and health. But we also have different content. For instance, we have some content on AI or on big data. And the critical point for us is that all the content on the media portal are open educational resources, because we really believe in this concept, because our primary goal is to support quality education for all. So we want to have no barriers to our content. And especially when it comes to STEM education, that is a subject where there's not a lot of high quality content around that is free. And further, for us as a global organization, we really want to cater to teachers and students, and they all have like a vastly different environment. So they need to be able to adapt the content that they receive so that the content fits their needs. And this is possible through OER. So the educators don't have to worry about any legal obligations, anything. It's all is open and free to use, and free also to adapt and to share. And our content is screened by experts and meets strict quality criteria. And we also have like a small student area where students can learn on their own without teachers. There's some content like interactive games and so on. And we also have a page for teachers where they can get more insights into different teaching methods, for instance, design thinking and STEM. And then we also have a part where there are news, where we share, for instance, information on homeschooling, which was quite a big part in the last years. And we also share general information on open educational resources. Next slide, please. So now I would like to share with you a little glimpse into our media portal. For that, I'm going to share my screen to share the media portal. So, yep, I hope that everybody can see my screen. All right. Yep. So here's the media portal. As I explained, here you can find the student area where there are content that students can use without teachers. Then we have here about the portal, the different media methods, and the news what I talked about. But today I want to go into one of our news resources, which is big data. So here in the search field, you should just put in something you're searching for. For us, it's now big data. Then I go on there, and here you can see a media package. So as I said, the content is available in 3 different languages. So you can see here we have English, German, or Spanish. Here you can see the download size. Here's a short introduction into the media package. Then here you can download the whole media package if you're interested. You can generate a link to share, or you also can generate a QR code. And in this media package, we have over 35 individual media. And you can see images, interactive video, and text. And here are some of the pictures where the students can also see some information. The teachers or students can see informations. And here you can view the content. For instance, you see a big data opportunities and challenges, which is just a picture. Then we have here interactive content. Also just show you quickly. For instance, when you click here on clustering, you can see a short video. What is clustering? And then you also can see here an example. So we have that. And then here we have, for this media package, we have one short explanatory video. Sometimes we also have like podcasts or different other video content. And then we have like the heart of the media package, which are the text. So here you can see that teachers have the chance to see like worksheets on big data and data tracks, and here the answer sheets. So the worksheets they can give to the students, work with them through them, and they also have the answers. And then we have here some information sheets where teachers can just get information, for instance, on the definition of big data. Then we have here again some worksheets and answer sheets. Here we have like teaching ideas. And then we have here a link list, which is also quite important. So we put together some more resources for teachers if they want to go more into depth into the topic and see different resources where they can get more information. And then, which is also quite important, at the end, you can see a guideline. So the guideline sums up all the content that is in the media package and ways how to include it into your lessons. Perfect. Then I will stop sharing my screen and go back to the presentation. Yeah, and if you have any questions, again, please feel free to raise your hand or post them into the chat. Yeah, so this was a short glimpse into the media portal. Please feel free after the session to take an even more in-depth look if you like to. Then please next slide. Yeah, our second project that we are working on the topic of digitalization in Africa are web-based training. And we did those web-based trainings together with the GIZ, which is the German Development Agency. And the web-based training that we provide focus on vocational orientation. Because with our work, we have seen an increase in need for vocational orientation, especially when it comes to STEM jobs. And we also believe that STEM jobs, as I said in the beginning, can have a significant impact on societies. So what we did with our web-based training is to combine STEM knowledge, like information on the water cycle, with job profiles, where you need that knowledge, for instance, like the agripreneur. And we really try to help students to explore their potential, learn new skills, and improve their prospects by showing them what different jobs in the STEM fields entail. And yeah, this project is mainly focused on young adults, going a bit off from our main target groups, which are teachers. So as you can see on the side, our first web-based training was on the job profile of the electrician. Then we had the web-based training on the job profile of the agripreneur. And at the moment, we are working on a third one, which is focusing on the job profile of the paramedic. And because one very important part of our web-based trainings are role models from the continent that work in the field and share their knowledge and give a glimpse into their working day. So we hope that young students can have a better understanding from learning from these role models that are active in the jobs. So for the third web-based training, we are planning the paramedic. We're still looking for interesting role models from the continent. So if you know anybody who's working in that field, please feel free to contact me, because we don't have that great of a network when it comes to the health sector. So we're always happy for any input on that. Yes, and as I said, on the side, there are two pictures of the avatars that guide these young adults through the web-based training. You can see on the top, this was for the electrician, and on the bottom, this was for the entrepreneur. So we really try to make the web-based training quite interactive and engaging and keeping it open and interesting. Yeah, so those were the two projects that we implement for our focus region in Africa. And for the next part of the presentation, I know we don't have that much time, but I will try to keep it short. I want to focus on the challenges we face at Siemens Stiftung, because we have seen a significant uptake with our content in Latin America and in Germany, especially during the pandemic. There was such an uptake because everybody was looking for quality digital content, but unfortunately, we didn't see the same uptake in Africa. And this is a challenge that we're really trying to work at and try to improve to also have the opportunity to scale up in the African continent. Next slide, please. Yeah, and we all know that technology can be a divisive factor in achieving education for all, because it provides such a scalable solution. But we're all aware that technology in education is a quite complex undertaking that can only be successful from our standpoint if different actors work together on different challenges to achieve real impact. And I would like to use the concept of the 4 A's to discuss the challenges that the Siemens Stiftung is facing in implementing the 2 projects I just told you about in the region. And further also to get your feedback and your input and what kind of challenges you are facing or how you tackle these challenges as well. Because we know that content is not the only piece of the puzzle. There's software needed, there's hardware needed, knowledge on how to incorporate the content, training, and so on. And we know that not only Siemens Stiftung alone can tackle all these issues. So the 4 A's, that's a broad approach to illustrate the difficulties of implementing technology, enhanced education and training. So next slide, please. The first is appetite. And appetite stands for content mainly. It describes that the content that is provided should be relevant for the target group and more or less evoke the appetite. Next slide, please. Then we have affordability. So making sure that you have strategies in place, especially when it comes to education, that ensure that the target group has the resources to use the content. A way might be involving a mobile network operator as partner to provide zero-weighted access to the content. Next slide, please. Then we have the challenge of ability, which stands for the challenge to ensure that the target group has the skills to use the solution. For instance, having a very user-friendly app or providing training on how to use the content. Next slide, please. And then we have the challenge of access. For us, for instance, this means making sure to make our content compatible with devices that our target group already uses. For our region Africa, we try to make our content as mobile friendly as possible and available offline. Next slide, please. So this was a very short take on a pretty complex concept that is quite different for every solution. And in the beginning, we heard like 2 solutions, which are also very different from our solution. So if you have any question on the concept, please feel free to ask any question or post them into the chat, because it is quite crucial that everyone understood this concept and can apply it to the education solution for the next step of the presentation. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask them. If not, then we would go to the next slide, which is again a mentee question. So our second question is about the concept that I just explained, and we would like to know what challenges your startup is tackling. So for what challenges are you providing solutions? Is it appetite, ability, affordability, or access? Please again go to mentee. You see in the chat, there's the link to mentee, and also down you can see the code. And give us your answer. Have a few seconds time for that. And I think Erwin is going to share his screen again so that we can see the results. Okay, so just a few seconds. And again, if you have any questions also about the concept, feel free to post your questions into the chat. Or if you also want to share a little bit more information about the challenge your startup is tackling, you also can write that into the chat. So, I don't know. Are the results already in? Okay, that's already the. Oh, okay, now. Perfect. Okay, quickly. So at the moment, access. That's quite interesting and good for us because that's a challenge that's a challenge for us that we are not tackling, but it is quite a big challenge, access for us. Affordability, ability is also quite important. Appetite is not. It's quite down. That's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. That access is number one. Yeah, by affordability, ability, and appetite. That's interesting. Okay, I think because we don't have that much time, we will jump back into the presentation. But as I said, I will say it again, please feel free to also post like a bit further explanation into the chat if you would like to share some more information. But now we will jump back into the presentation. Yes, next slide, please. So for Siemens Stiftung, the two A's we are tackling are appetite and affordability. Next slide, please. Yeah, for us and with our open educational resources, we can tackle the issue of appetite because teachers can adapt the content so that it suits their needs. And since all our content is free, it is also affordable for teachers. So they don't have to pay any fees or anything like that to have high quality STEM content. So content, the solution can provide large scale access to diverse type of content at a low cost from our side, for instance, compared with book, because everything is digital and you can change it quite easily. And there's no cost and it's free of charge for teachers. But I think also when it comes to appetite and affordability, I think it's quite important for us at Siemens Stiftung to work with local content producers to really provide content that is contextualized for the region, even though it's also adaptable. Next slide, please. So then, as you might have guessed, the second mentee question is the two, what the biggest challenges for your startup. So of the appetite, ability, affordability, and access, what is the challenge for your startup? Then I think we will go again to see the results. Yeah, you would go again to mentee to vote on the biggest challenge for your startup. And I see at the moment it's appetite, ability, and access, not affordability. And here also see one in the chat from Derek. Thank you so much. Yeah, access. Yeah, Derek just wrote into the chat that access is a challenge because they are trying to democratize education and they want to make it possible for people also in the rural areas to have access to content. Yeah, I can really see that also being a big issue from our side, to have the infrastructure for people to have the ability to go into the content and to access the content. Yeah, that's also a big issue for us. Yeah, the affordability and access are at the top, appetite and ability. But those are nice. Yeah, because we don't have that much time, I would say we go back into the presentation. Oh, okay, yeah, because now it's getting a bit interesting, but now let's change a bit. The access is on top. Yeah, by appetite, affordability, ability. That's not as big of a challenge. But access, I can see that clearly. Next slide, please. Yeah, because you might already guess that for us, the other two A's are the biggest challenges, which are ability and access. And as I saw in the mentee, access is quite a challenge for all of you as well. So next slide, please. We are on the same page when it comes to that. So we think that ability is an essential aspect of implementing digital learning solutions, because success or failure is dependent on the teacher's knowledge of how to use open educational resource platforms for education purpose, and how to adapt or edit the content that we provide. If we have open education resources, but teachers don't really know how to use them, then it's then we shouldn't have that. Like, it's not necessary if people are not able to adapt the content. So unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have any training on how to use OER in the classroom. That is something we are working on. And as everybody else also said, access is quite an issue, because you can see that there are a lot of infrastructural constraints and poor connectivity that can prohibit engagement with the content. So we see that part of the region is not benefiting from existing offers, as Derek also said, like especially in the rural areas, because of the issues with access. They are not having all the opportunities to go into those platforms and get the content, even though they might need it the most, because you know that books can get old, but with digital content it's easier for us to update and keep it new and fresh and exciting. But as I said, if people don't have access to that content, it doesn't really help. So for us in the region, we know that mobile phones are an excellent opportunity to provide access to the content that we have. But so we try to make our content quite mobile friendly. But we at Siemens Stiftung don't have the resources to also provide the hardware, so the mobile phones that are needed to access then the content. And I think with this 4A's, with the challenges that we are tackling and the challenges that we are facing, you can see that that providing digital content is such a complex challenge that you need different partners and an environment to create an environment so that, for instance, open educational platforms can be accessed and can achieve the scalable solution that they would be if the environment would be better. So I think that can only be achieved with strong partners. Next slide, please. So you can see it on the slide that it's quite clear that when it comes to implementing technology-enhanced education and training, there are multiple layers of issues that need to be taken into consideration, and that can often only be tackled with different partners. And also, what we think is really important, we can only understand those issues and when people we are trying to serve are included in the process. So going into the rural areas, really asking what are the issues, what is needed, so that we have a better understanding of what solutions we can provide. We think that that is quite important. So it's really important also to work with local partners and local startups and local organizations. And as I also touched on, any of these challenges can have an impact on the success of the solution. So for example, suppose we come back to the challenge of affordability that we try to tackle with our open educational resources by providing free content. In that case, teachers are still struggling to access the content on our platform, even if it's free, because they don't have the access to data or to the hardware. And I think this is something we at Siemens Stiftung are dealing with at the moment. We have great free content, but we have other challenges like ability and access that we can improve on. But I think it's also clear, as I said many times, that we need to build an environment for technology and education. And this can only be successful with the right partner network and the knowledge of the people we are trying to serve by including them into the process. And we also really think that Edtech can have great potential by providing quality education at scale, especially also in remote areas. But for Edtech to do that, there has to be quite some improvements and strong partnerships as well. Next slide, please. I hope that you could take away some input from this discussion. Yeah, we are a bit over time, but if there are any questions from your side, please feel free to post them into the chat or raise your hand. Open to answer any questions, or also afterwards you can add me at LinkedIn or write me an email if you have any further questions. Yes, thank you very much. So I think.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're welcome.
I was looking for the unmute button. Yeah, so also actually answering to Rui's question, because part of the Edtech challenge we did the past months, actually we had quite a bit of applications, 54 to be exact, of which 24 were selected, and the majority actually indicated that they would need help in finding digital resources to share through the channels. Which is why Jacqueline shared this platform and options available freely for you to use. Some startups have emerged in that there's a specific match, so we will follow up on that. But yeah, we look forward actually to many more. If you think this free access to many digital tools would be useful for you, then Jacqueline is your point of contact, and we will be happy to facilitate that. Moving on, and also a bit speeding up, because we have some margin, because we have a break afterwards, but I don't want to take too much time of your break. The other big need that emerged from the Edtech challenge was actually that the majority needed funding. Some already had attracted funding in various amount of sizes, from a few thousands to a few tons, but many didn't yet, but do of course have the need for funding in order to be able to scale. So that's why we decided, together also with our partner, we'll start to develop a bit of a high-speed toolbox in order to get you more investor ready. So that's what I'll be talking you through in the next few moments. So basically, this is a checklist regardless in which stage you are with your startup. This is something that any investor will always want to know. So they will want to know your core value proposition, what are you offering, which problem you are addressing, which solution to which problem you are offering, which technology you're using, for which market you're aiming, and what your targets are, and what kind of products you will develop in which stage. Any investor will also want to know your history and more about your team, because in the end, that's the fundament of any business. And of course, which kind of funding do you have already in? What kind of successes and results did you book with that? That gives an investor a bit more of security. And as in any business, of course, everybody prospects major growth, but it's always good to have a clear picture on that, on your profit and loss forecast. So that's something you will want to share with your investor in your investor talks as well. And last but not least, which funding needs you have. You have is planned in time. You will have different needs, and that's why you will have also different strategies. So this is a checklist just to keep always in mind. As we have not the whole day, we made a selection of the topics we will talk you through in the next few moments. So basically focusing on the market, target and product roadmap, your team, and funding needs. So yeah, as mentioned, for the team, that is the fundament. It's clear, you can have many sizes, and the point is based on your size of your team, which skills you have in and which experience you have, you build the right team. So for that, first, let's go to the first mentee question regarding team. Erwin, if you want to share your screen. With the first question, we would like to know from you, how big is your team? Not many entries coming in, but at least that's the first. So not a really big team. Let's give it a few seconds more. Well, that's quite broad, so that's well, very good. Yeah, so basically, actually, so there is not the perfect size. It depends on the objectives you have. I'll talk you quickly through it. So basically, if you have a small team, it's key to know what do you want to accomplish and make your decisions. Often with a very small team, it's the founders, and it's not always started as with the ideal team in mind. So you just have to work with the skills you have. But the key there as well is be aware of the strong points of each team member and organize that well. In terms of ideal team structure, some say it's 5, some say it's 10. It depends a bit on what you're trying to achieve. But I think the fundament is, and this figure helps as well, to be very clear on what you have on board. And if you have a tight deadline, for instance, because of an investment, then of course probably you need a bit more hands. So also looking into what you can organize in the short term might help. The other point an investor will always ask you is how committed is your team? So besides the quality of your team, but also the commitment. It can be in terms of are you all working part-time or full-time? That gives an indication of commitment, but also how did you organize it? Is everybody able to work autonomously, and is everyone well informed? So for instance, if the investor would have a talk with not the founder, but somebody else, would they be able to share the same story? So that's also something you want to talk your potential investor through and be clear about where you stand. So quickly moving on to the other point is, of course, you need a strong team, but you also need a good product, and you need to know which market you, what are the typologies of the market you're addressing. So basically, the key question is what makes a strong product? An investor will want to know in which stage you are, but also what kind of tests did you do, what came out of it, and so how stable and how scalable is your product. To this end, partnerships with partners like Siemens will also help you to improve your product and test, for instance, your infrastructure. And this is all information you can then share with the potential investor. So that also makes it more investor ready in that sense. The other point is regarding the product roadmap. So basically, we have 2 questions for that. So let's start first quickly with the product roadmap, because also there, an investor wants to be confident on where you stand and what you're doing, and have a clear picture on what you expect for the future. So maybe, Erin, you can share the mentee screen again. Very good. The first answer in. So it says it's a typical, I mean, it's one entry, but it's not a strange answer in that sense. You often start with one solution in mind, and that's what you're going to develop. But of course, also as you will see during the testing, we have quite a devised overview. That's very nice. But basically, you can't solve any issue in the same time. So having a product roadmap to that sense helps also for you to set priorities, to plan your actions accordingly, but also to give an investor clarity on where you stand, what you intend to do now, and how you see the growth ahead. So it's always good to be aware of it. If you don't have a product roadmap yet, then maybe that's something you could work on. So the other point, regarding you have a product, it's tested, it works well, but also who are you targeting? And that's also something an investor will want to know in great detail. So what kind of market are you addressing? What kind of particularities are in this market? Is it fragmented? Is it concentrated? Be clear that you have done a good analysis, and that gives clarity and security to an investor. And that's relevant in any stage and any type of funding you are attracted. What an investor also would want to know is which customers you are attracting or you are targeting. And there, you have the many typologies of customers, but in the end, what is important to you is who decides to buy your product and on which grounds will they decide that. And one of a way to explain that is a customer will can decide based on needs. So what kind of problem do they have and what kind of solution would they need? But they can also make a decision based on price. So maybe you want to have clear picture on comparison for similar solutions, so you know how to price your product. It can be something more of a thrill, something they really want, or gives status. And also an argument could well be definitely for more citizen oriented solutions, that there's a clear analysis of why this is beneficial to have. So maybe you can quickly start the mentee again for the question on customers. So the question is, what kind of customer are you targeting? And do you know what kind of arguments will prevail for them to make the decision whether to not to buy your product? Very good. Nice to see this. So basically, because this is not only things you need to take into account for your marketing strategy, but it's also may require changes to your product. So what kind of particularities or options you offer in order to cater well to the type of customer you're addressing. And maybe you are not fully sure of what kind of arguments would prevail. So that would also be something to analyze, in order that, yes, of course, for the business development, but also for an investor, they really would like to know how you intend to go about this. So it's good to be conscious and aware of that. Quickly, we're going really high speed. Quickly moving to the last part, so the funding. Yeah, as mentioned, so what came across with the profiles we received is that many need additional funding, but it's not clear how much or what kind of funding and criteria. So that's why you need to be aware and also have a planning for that. What kind of funding do you need when? And for this, first, just a check question. Is it again a quick and I think also the last for this one, the mentee question. Erin, can you share the screen again? Because what we want to know is definitely for the ones that indicated that would need additional funding or are looking for it, do you already have a funder or an investor on the radar? Very good. Very good. And maybe also, so many different, and then I'm of course curious, maybe if somebody wants to react, to share what kind of funders these are, then we are of course very curious to hear about that. In the meantime, I will share the slides again. Because if nobody is taking the floor, because of course, based on the funder you are focusing on, they may have different criteria and different requirements, which means you need a different preparation and the information you provide to them. In any case, timing is key. You need to be well prepared and to be quick in delivering your information about your company. So basically, it divides in two things. So you have to be based on the funders you will have on the radar. You have to be very conscious and in the know about which criteria and requirements they apply, and to prepare your story accordingly. And definitely don't miss out on metrics. Be clear and show that you've done your analysis well and that all the information is at hand. And the other thing that investors really want is that you to be quick. So if you have a first contact, be well prepared with your slides, and in that sense you will be able to keep their attention, which is always an important part. In the end, you are dealing with humans, so it's also important to take care. I see Derek in the chat. Very good. Yeah, so that's also an interesting take to have an idea on what kind of other projects they invested into to see where their preference is. That's also part of a good strategy. Also, considering time, are there any questions on this topic you would like to share with us? And otherwise could also be via the chat. It's a silent group today. I'm just skipping ahead also because of the time, and maybe before the 12:15 session starts again, you want a quick break to get something to drink. The slides and recording will be available on our website, which you see here. Do reach out to us also for any questions you might have. Actually, yeah, Rui, we will get back to you with the exact details. I think also for time, it's better to do this in individual. We will reach out to you. And the other thing I wanted to share with you, as you know, this is part of the a two-day program. So what's up next at 12:15 in a few minutes, our colleague Stefan will give you a wrap-up of the conclusions of the day and also talk you through the program for tomorrow. And for tomorrow, we have a packed program again from 10 till 5:30. All very welcome to join us there too. Here are all the links. We can also provide them in the chat in case you have not accessed the swipe card yet. But yeah, we would like to thank you very much. Happy that you've been here, and yeah, reach out both also to Jacqueline and to us in case of any questions. And on the startups that have already emerged with a match for Siemens, we will reach out to them. And Rui, I will also get back to you with the details on the two startups mentioned. That's, I think, from us. See you in a few moments in the plenary, I would say.